all of them were spending millions into internal tools that none of their employees are liking because it's slow, it's not working that well. But not only it's slow, but it's nonsense. We need somewhere where you can store your music, because that's not what Spotify does. Our industry is in the need of what I call Switzerland of digital music asset, where everyone would work together on the same tool, because we are sharing music all day long, and we are almost no music is owned by only one person.
The journey that Clément and Bridge Audio has been on is quite interesting. It's about a journey of specializing in a certain niche and building products internally and then building them out, offering them to the market. So it's really just an extension of what we've done before, and I love that journey. You'll hear about it in this episode. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Sound Connections podcast. Today we have the founder and CEO of Bridge Audio, Clément. Welcome.
Thank you, Jacob, for the invitation.
This is going to be fun because I'm speaking with a guy who's been an entrepreneur for many years, and this is not your first company, but it's a very interesting company that's really gaining a lot of traction. So it's going to be a really interesting founder episode today. Clément, we've already had like a chit chat here before the podcast, and I can really sense there's going to be some really good, deep conversations about entrepreneurship and sort of your journey as well. But for the people who don't know who you are, Clément, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Clément. I'm French, as my accent can say. Even my wife thinks that I have a German accent, but and I've been working within the music industry for 20 plus years now. I started as a drummer, then a composer, then a sync broker, publisher, then a supervisor, and now I am in music and tech. And so I was the founder of Criminal Music Supervision. That's what I did for the biggest part of my professional life so far. So I mostly worked within the music for picture field, sync, music supervision, running this company that is a 15 people company based in Paris and New York. And basically music and tech and music for picture are more or less the big part of my professional life.
Interesting. And tell me a bit about Bridge Audio, because it's a really interesting company and you guys have come quite far. But why did you start Bridge Audio? Was it sort of a spring off of what you were already doing in your previous company, and then you said, okay, we must build a tech platform?
You must have read something if you say that. Yeah, indeed, it's a kind of spin-off. And basically, when we were acting as music supervisor at Criminal, and when I started hiring some people, I was really not comfortable with what we call technical stack of ours within the music industry. That was, in fact, no stack at all, a mix of WeTransfer, Dropbox, Google Drive, SoundCloud in private link. And so we were more or less all downloading, uploading, renaming files all day long. That is not best part of the work, I would say, and not what led me to do music supervision. So in 2011, I think we started to build an internal tool at Criminal named criminal.io, just to help us with how to receive, organize, and share music, and but also describe music, because not only I was not comfortable with the lack of tool to organize our workflow, but also I was not that comfortable with the lack of tool to describe the music and be able to find the perfect track for the project we were working on. So the tool was thought as something where we could upload music, receive and share, but also describe music very precisely. We made our own tethers of music description because we looked at what was done so far, especially in the production music, because they were no doubt very aware of the various way to describe music, but we in a way succeed to make it even better in the way we were describing music, because we noticed that all these people were always using many different words to describe the music, like I don't know, moody, sad, and dramatic. And so when we started studying this before building our own solution to the describe music, we understood that very often they wanted it to be in music production. They wanted it to be very precise. So that's why they had such a flourish vocabulary to describe music. But in fact, very often what was missing was just the possibility to give a note on every aspect of the music. So instead of saying moody or sad, we just took the decision to say, okay, at Criminal, we will only have sad, but with a note from 0 to 1 or from 0 to 100, just to be able to say, okay, it's a little bit moody, sad, or it's very sad, or it's middle side sad. And so we did that for everything. And by the way, we made a pattern of this way of describing assets.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
starting from that, we had a very, very powerful way of describing and so searching music, which no doubt was key in the way to become a bigger music supervision. I don't say we became huge because there are no huge music supervision company, but that's why we were 15 and no just a one-man show with one or two intern working together. And starting from that, to answer your question, because you had a question, I had more and more traction by the end of the 2010s, around 2018, from friends working as publishers, labels, asking us if we wanted to turn this internal tool into a tool for the music industry. And but also in the same time, and because describing music manually was a huge, was asking us a lot of time. It was more or less 5 to 10 minutes per track. So when we decide to work together with a catalog of 1,000, I let you make the math. It's huge, the time you need to spend to start being good in the way you are pitching a catalog. And so from the beginning, I always had a look at how AI was growing with the idea of saying maybe, but it was really a maybe with a big question mark. One day, AI would be good enough to make this music description automatically. And in 2018, we had a French company named Nyland, maybe if I say it with an English accent, that really made the difference. And they made something that was, for the first time, good enough to say, okay, maybe this is the right moment, and maybe even it will be possible to describe music automatically, because once again, in 2015, it was not at all an option. And so, as we had already the idea of organizing files, but we also had a massive data set of music, not made to train an AI, just to be good music supervisor. We were in the perfect situation to start thinking about something wider, something bigger that would not help only the music supervision companies, because we are just a few thousands worldwide, but maybe the whole music industry. And so I made the decision of making interviews of all the personas, from the bedroom producer to the guy working in a radio or in a major of the industry. And we realized at this time that there was room for something that would help everyone, not something dedicated to A&R or promo only or sync only, but something really wide to help us in our workflow and with the discoverability. And that's where the idea of building Bridge came. So I launched the company in 2021, and before that, I sold Criminal to the amazing team of Alter K in early 2021. So in the same year, I sold my company of music supervision to become totally free and focus on this new endeavor. And I started the new company by the end of the same year, by raising the first round of finance, in September 2021.
Amazing. And there must be a lot of things leading up to that. And we'll sort of take the journey from the start. what's really interesting, if you see your name on LinkedIn, even on this call, guys can't see that there's a drum in between Clément and your last name. So I guess there must have been an identity there. But
Not at all.
walk me
It's a
through
bit
it.
storytelling. I'm joking.
But walk me through it. How did you become an entrepreneur? Because Bridge Audio, third company. What was your first? But what came before that as well?
So right before that, I was a student, and I was studying business with a real lack of interest. To be honest, I was not very happy with that, and I was doing also music studies with much more interest. But at the end of my, and I was studying indeed drums and jazz and composition, and at the end of my university, I had the opportunity to make an entrepreneurship year where we decided with a friend of mine to launch a publishing company. So we worked on it during the whole year. And so it was the way to combine my passion for music with the fact that I learned business. And we finished this year of studies in June, and we launched the company in July. So since then, I am an entrepreneur with successes, but with fails as well. So, but I know nothing else than being an entrepreneur. I've been intern one time at Universal.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting because I have sort of the same journey. I've never had a normal job since I was since ever, and that's its own thing. So I think we'll also spend some time talking about that, because being an entrepreneur is a particular lifestyle. It can be really hard to describe it, but with sad emoji. But maybe I think we should talk a bit about this, because now we have two entrepreneurs, one successful from France and one wannabe from Norway, who can talk about how it is to be a entrepreneur. So you started this first company. I guess, was that a dance of roses, or like, what was the struggle, and why did you even stay in it? Because I can imagine it hasn't been easy.
Good question. So the first company was named Madame Je vous aime, a very French name. It was supposed to do mostly production, label, publishing, but we had no idea about what we were really building. And quite quickly, I made the only guy I knew from the industry that was a friend of my cousin. That was a pretty successful label manager, that he had his own company. The guy that was behind Gotham project, maybe you know that project from France.
Yeah.
Very successful. But he was not that successful at this time because it was not launched, but he was already making a lot of music for advertising. And so I thought that it was a very interesting way to make money quite quickly, to finance the production of ours, because it's good to have the idea of making a label, but you need some fuel to do things. And as money is not raining from nowhere, we had to find a way to get some money. So advertising quite quickly became a source of finance. I was composing music for advertising and feature films, and also I was working together with the artists we were representing to start doing a few things like this. But our focus was not that. We were focusing on building a label. But then we realized that the world of production music, of the labels as we knew it in the end of the 90s, early 2000s, was promised to a huge change. It was named at this time digitalization, MP3s, not streaming. It was really before that. And so the few projects we had and we presented to major labels, they were interested, but we didn't succeed to sell it. I thought it was just because of this shift in the way the music industry was changing, because I read it about this digitalization. In fact, I think I was not aware about how FOMO was important in the music industry, and we should have said to Sony that Universal was interested in signing our project, but I was too honest at this time. And so seeing that the music industry was promised to a huge change, I was saying with my partner, we said, but why are we even starting to learn something that is going to change so much? And so we took the decision to keep on making music for advertising as a source of revenue, and we launched another company in the 2000 named Soundicate. That was what we called at this time a smart radio. So it was a radio where you could decide what music do you want to listen, what style, what mood you are in. So it was launching a radio dedicated to what you wanted, and so it was pretty innovative at this time.
But there's a pretty big step from that revelation you had to start a new company. Like, why?
Yeah.
Was it just because, okay, if we want to be an entrepreneur, we need to do something that makes sense? Or what was the thought process there?
It was more a question of we were feeling that we were maybe not at the right place at the right moment by building a label where at the exact time where CDs were just not working anymore. And at the same time, we were all having a lot of stories about this internet thing. And to be honest, I was not a geek at all as a teenage. So I was curious about what was this internet thing. And so I just called some friends that were more aware of that. And so we started this new company, Soundicate, with people that were coming from the finance field, the tech field. And so we were 5 partners in this company, and quite complementary. And so we launched this solution, and we were learning by building it. To be honest, it was all new. At this time, we were ripping CDs. We were digitalizing vinyls of music that was never digitalized before from everywhere in the world. So it was pretty fun. We were more or less all in our 20s. Nobody made a penny from that. We were just doing stuff and having fun. And so, but because there is a but it was in fact the really bad timing, because we just finalized our business plan quite exactly the day where the first explosion of this bubble came, and in fact it was pretty complex, because we never succeed to raise money, so we just made it in a bootstrap way. But like I said, nobody was paid, so we were just a band of friends making interviews, digitalizing music, because we also had interviews and really we were also writing a lot of things on this website. And so that's it. But the thing is that we finally tried to make some money, but we were not making a lot of money. None of our friends were even listening to music on their computer. So it was really too early stage. So like I quickly told you about that before starting this interview, entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is mostly about the time to market. And as an entrepreneur, it's pretty easy to think that you might come too late on a market. I mean, it's something that you can understand. I was not smart enough to start it earlier, but it's really less intuitive to understand that you might be too early. And so the end of this company was that I finally refused an offer from a French radio that proposed a pretty decent price finally to buy the company, but I said no with my teammates, because we didn't want to work for this company. It's company named Skyrock, really, but in fact it was 5 years. We stopped 6 years before Spotify started. Just to give you a number.
So that was the journey you're on. It's really interesting. I have a question, and let's just talk about the concept of time to market, because you can understand it the traditional way, or you can take a new ticket that I'm also just going to bring to the table, is the time it takes to get to market. There's two elements to it, because one of the things while you talked, I had a few throwbacks to my own career. I have been, I'm more focused now, but I've always been like very hyperactive and, help start stuff, and starting stuff was what gave me pleasure. Sustaining stuff was more of a struggle. I'm better at that now. But I have been, for example, in publishing and started and ran a publishing company also as a label. And, I have hands-on experience, but also just through studying what's out there and talking to founders, it sounds like a pretty terrible idea to start a label or a publishing company, because the time it takes to get to market, the time it takes to build it up, to create anything sustainable is just so immense and difficult. What's your take on the music industry when it comes to that, like time to get to market?
Good question. Good question. And this is a question that I have even for my new company, because it takes a lot of time to build a tech solution, especially a big one. I often say that in the tech field, you have the one feature products, Venmo, to name a US-based solution. But but you have also very complex and complete solution where you really need to have a lot of things to really be able to get on the market. That's what we call in the music tech, in the tech field, the product market fit. And as an example, Notion has a pretty complex journey because they almost died so many times before finally being the very successful tech we know, and so that's a complex question indeed, because if you take too long to come on the market, you might die even before starting. So that's not an option. But no, I have no real answer for that. You need to be agile. You need to be to start having something to present. Whatever you do, if you are a tech company or a label, you need to just start being able to do things with small cost, because not all of us are able to be funded. For instance, Criminal, that was my biggest success so far, was totally bootstrapped. So I was alone. I started it in my room, and then we were 2 and 3 and up to 15 with a very nice office. But it was easy to launch, because what it requested to launch this company was just a phone to call people and saying that I had some very interesting artists and labels I was working with. But when it's more costly to start a company, you need to find some finance, because that's the idea of the original idea of VC, to finance before making real money of it. And some projects need that.
It's really interesting, and I hope you allow me to go with you to dive into it. I'll just give an analogy. So I'm really good at the music industry. I would say myself, it's been my obsession for 10 plus years, and I pretty much know what I'm doing in the space. So, for example, we also have a consultancy arm at Amplitude, where we work with a lot of small, some larger companies when it comes to consulting in certain aspects. And around, I've been working a lot with AI, and we do a lot of AI stuff, more than just the traditional. I work with AI. Like we do some pretty exploratory stuff, where we have some pretty interesting projects. But I started programming, for example, two months ago, just as an example. I've programmed a bit before when I was young. I also did 1 year as electrical engineering, so I know the general context of programming. I started programming 2 months ago, and now our consultancy right now is earning more money programming products than from a music tech consulting in 2 months' work. And for me, that's just, I learn really fast. And of course, my brain is wired that way. I have a degree as a tone master and audio engineer. So like, it's not the same, but like there's mentality structures that is the same. And for me, that really struck me, like, I think this morning, just like sending bills for a project we did, and it's just like, this took me 2 months of work to order to charge that, and they're happy with the delivery. And it took me 10 years to do the other thing, and I charged less, and it's hard to get clients. I was just like, I'm going to stay in music industry. That's what I'm going to do. But like that frustration is also so evident. Like the same, we had this talk about, this morning, I've been building music and music tech companies for many years. I did for fun with a couple of co-founders build just a normal tech company. And off the bat, 6 weeks after we started, we had 3 major clients. We were about to raise money, but we didn't need to anymore because we had paying clients. And that is just incredibly frustrating as a music tech founder, seeing that difference all over. And I can imagine with you building a tech product in the music space where capital is, generally speaking, hardest to get, and the amount of customers, it doesn't exist at the same scale as other consumer products or other industries where there's more like free capital to actually invest in SaaS products. What's your take on this? Do you have an internal conflict on it? I definitely have, but again.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I have many ideas coming when you say that, but when I was building Criminal.io, so the tool that inspired me to build Bridge Video, I more or less spent 1,000K every year in this tool. So for the music business, it's quite a big amount of money. And for me, it was no doubt the best investment I made at the moment. Sorry for all my employees, but I love them much more than the tech part of it. But the tech part is something that is very that helps you to structure your business as well. And so I never regret to have spent 1,000K every year. So I more or less spent 1 million in Criminal.io. And I was very happy because it made us more productive. So we won a lot of money from that. Now that I am selling a SaaS solution, so Bridge is a solution where you need to pay a monthly fee. Of course, we are not asking from our clients 1,000K a year. Whereas what Bridge does is even much powerful than what Criminal.io was doing. But, and I don't want to make enemies by saying that, but we are not in a very geek industry. The music industry has a pretty special relation with tech, I would say, because we love tech. We've been producing music with tech for years now, and we are pretty geeky when we are talking about how to produce music. But in the music business, not the production music part, it's Stone Age, and it's pretty surprising because you are bringing something that is just that has a massive amount of value for the people you are talking to, and even with that, sometimes it takes more energy than I was expecting to convert everyone. Today, we have more or less 40,000 users at Bridge since the launch in May 2022. It's a lot of people. And but sometimes, especially for the big ones, I guess you have seen the playlist, the TV series on Spotify, and it didn't change that much. When you are talking to big players, it takes a lot of time. They are pretty complex to convince. That's very surprising because what we bring, for instance, to that kind of industry, let's say, let's take Universal as an example. Universal, they have, as you know, millions of tracks. Okay. What we bring with Bridge is not only to ease the way to receive, organize, and share music, but also to amplify the discoverability. It means as soon as you are uploading your music on your Bridge Audio workspace, everything will be described, but really well described. I mean, genre, subgenre, mood, and so on. It means that, for instance, I will take the example of the sync department of these companies. They will be able to browse within their own catalog like never before. Today in France, for instance, the guy that is behind, that is working at the sync department for years, that is a guy I love, Charles-Henri. He will retire in a few months. The guy has been describing on his own iTunes music over years. So the day Charles-Henri will quit this company that is a quoted company, the asset is not owned by Universal. It's owned, the asset of the knowledge of the catalog is owned by an employee, not by the company. Yeah. It's totally crazy. So what we bring, the value we bring to the industry is huge. But like you said before, that was your question, it's not always that easy to have some people that really understand that in this specific field of music, whereas in other fields we would be paid like a massive amount of music to help them with that kind of subject. So yeah, it's and I still don't really understand why maybe we have a relation where all the beginning of the internet was built on the promise to say, okay, you will not have to pay CDs anymore. Come and use ADSL and don't pay music. Put your music on ADSL. So maybe we have a kind of trauma. I don't know, but it's pretty special.
One of my new theories, I work a lot. I work in sort of researching music tech financing. That's one of the things I really love. And really interesting about that space is, as far as I can see, there's pretty much no academics on it. And yeah, and I understand why. It's a small niche market. And so I'm trying to do a lot of exploration. And one of the things I hear a lot from investors in general and talking with founders where investors say is that music is a small market. And I believe that is a not so nuanced comment for many different reasons when it comes to sort of the potential of multiples in an investment company. But there's also another element to it that I think you're touching upon, which I think is quite interesting. And that is, with a smaller market, music in comparison just to the other creative industries is relatively small. There's also about the amount of potential clients and customers, for example. So let's say if you would take a market that might be 10x bigger, and you would have many different types of companies. Some are skeptical, some are early adopters. But here, if you have, let's say, a small selection of potential customers, and just a subset of them are really skeptical, that's going to represent a big part of the market, if that makes sense. And your opportunities of going to the client that are not skeptical are there, but there's just less of them, like actual number quantity. So it can be harder to find those early adopters that leads the way and pushes the innovation forward, just because the actual quantity of number of potential customers are smaller. That's at least a working theory I have, which I think is quite interesting, which is sort of the flip side of the small market. The reason why I'm saying that is just love to get your opinion on it. Do you think that plays into it, that because there's thousands of potential clients, but other industries there might have been hundreds of thousands of potential clients. Is that a thing that you think and feel?
Totally. That may be the question that can keep me awake for years, because that's a pretty complex one. When, like I said, when I started being conscious that there was a room for building a new business from what I've been building with Criminal.io, so in around 2018. At this precise time, I had, in a way, two options. I could just turn my tool and put my tool as it was on the market, and I would have made this pretty quickly. And I took this second solution. I could just think about the idea of, is there a bigger vision? And so, like I said earlier, we made interviews, because if we were turning Criminal.io on the market, then we would compete at this time with Think Tank and Disco. okay, that are great tools, but the sync field is very tiny. Like you say, if you are considering the music market, indeed, many investors consider that it's a very small market. I had this conversation at California in Belgium with this guy saying that, in fact, the market of music is smaller than the incomes of Starbucks coffee for 1 year. So just shows the scale of it. And indeed, when you are pitching as a music tech entrepreneur, you are not that much aware about what other field you are competing with. And so at this precise time, I made the decision, like I said earlier, to make interviews to see, okay, I tackled the pain of in the life of a music supervisor. Nice, but is this pain close to the pain of other persona of the music industry? And that's where these interviews were very insightful, because we understood that, whatever you do within the music industry, you will share music. Whether you are the creator of the music, whether you are the manager, the publisher, the label, maybe just at the extreme end of the ecosystem, you have people that are just recipients. Medias, TV producers, advertising agencies. But in between, everyone is more or less receiving, sharing, storing, and so on. And once again, we don't have any solution for that. So when I understood that there was room for a big company. I mean, a company that would not just convince 1,000 music supervisor, but millions of creators. But that said, and that's the risk behind all that kind of ideas, you need to find the path, the way to go to your big market. And you can't just decide that, okay, this is a product that is made for everyone, so everyone is coming. So you need to, in other terms, it's not because you have a product that will help the whole music industry that it will work like this. You need to segmentize and find the right segments that are fitting perfectly well with your product as it is at the moment, to make them your early adopters, and then from that spread the word to other personas. And that's something that we were not that aware at the early time of Bridge, where we were always saying Bridge is for everyone working with music and audio, but if it's for everyone, is it really for me? That's the question. So and now we are really focusing on labels, publishers that are our main users at the moment, and every user that is coming at Bridge, they are bringing with them all the ecosystem. So today we are onboarding many people. Some of them are onboarded thanks to sales efforts, because you need to convince labels to use and help them with the onboarding. But many of them are self-onboarded, like it's a PLG, like we say. And so today, we have more or less 3,000 new users announced without any effort from us. And but the other, we are taking them to the product, making a product tour, and making them switch from Dropbox or whatever they were using before. So that's I don't know if I answer well your question.
No,
I even don't remember
absolutely.
the question.
Well, it was talking about sort of market size from the flip side of the amount of customers available. And another thing I talk a good deal about, which I have clear opinions on, is when it comes to building B2B tools and sort of the two directions you can take. There's like two viable directions. One is much harder than the other. You're doing the hard one, in my opinion, which can also be very good. But there's the ecosystem mindset, which I would describe Bridge Audio as like it's a ecosystem of tools and approaches that's going to give a holistic approach to how you can work with your music. And then there's how to describe the best pieces of an ecosystem. So that, for example, be, in your case, it could be the company you met from France, AI tagging, right? That's a piece of an ecosystem. And what I generally recommend to founders I speak with is not choose the ecosystem path. Not because it's not a great thing like you do, it's just so incredibly difficult to get it financed. Because whenever you build an ecosystem, it requires money. It requires a lot of time, it requires a lot of effort, a lot of customers. But the more, generally speaking, on a statistical level, the product feature in an ecosystem is of less potential, yes, but it's also more viable when it comes to actually having a statistical chance of success. So I also really respect the people going the ecosystem route, because that is a journey I myself would not be able to take, just because let's just take, SoundCloud. It's an ecosystem, right? 16 years to become profitable. Like that is the usual journey story of these ecosystem products. When you went out to Bridge Audio and you saw, I have this tool and now it's even better than what you had, did you understand what journey you went out on? Like, has this been something you've understood later?
No, I understood it by building it, to be honest. Like, pretty often in my journey of entrepreneur, I'm not an entrepreneur that is thinking like 10 years before launching something. I even don't know if there are any entrepreneurs that are in that shape. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I would say that we are in between the two models you are talking about. We don't consider Bridge as what was the word you said? The ecosystem, or at least a closed ecosystem. But it's indeed an ecosystem. But we also have, we are also building API to make Bridge very easy to use with other features. So but we are still at the early stage of this API part of our strategy. So for instance, I don't think that one day we might have, for instance, the ability to make a newsletter within Bridge, because I really prefer having an API that will help you to plug your MailChimp on it. We will not do anything on Bridge that might make our market smaller, because if you try to answer a question that is just dedicated to one of the persona we want to help with Bridge, then we lose all the other. But if we want to make Bridge something that you will use whatever you do, then we need to make our user be able to plug at the end of the day. We are not at the moment doing it, but it will come in 2025, 2026. We will have a lot of ability with API. So you can plug, for instance, Bridge with Zapier and have Bridge working together with MailChimp, like I said, or to release your music on your distribution company. We will never, for instance, do digital distribution. That's not what we do. We are just a solution to organize, store, share in a one-to-one relation, but also many-to-many relation. So the idea is just to be a central point, because our industry is in the need of what I call Switzerland of digital asset, where everyone would work together on the same tool, because we are sharing music all day long, and we are almost no music is owned by only one person. Very often you have co-publishers and so on. So that's also why I explained to the major of the industry, they can't build their own solution. They used to do this. All of them were spending millions into internal tools that none of their employees are liking, because it's slow, it's not working that well. But not only it's slow, but it's nonsense. We need somewhere where you can store your music, because that's not what Spotify does. Spotify does it at the end when it's finalized, but when you are working within the music industry, you are also storing your stems, your instrumentals, your demos, and so on. So that's the idea. So I would say we are an ecosystem, but we will never integrate features that would make us amazing just for labels. We really prefer that labels are using what we are doing well, and if they need to connect our solution with a royalty solution, then we will have API for that. If they want to plug another Google Sheet or whatever, they will be able to make it.
That's amazing.
That's the vision.
I think that's such a great nuance to my argument, because basically what you're doing is even though you are an ecosystem, you're also thinking about the larger ecosystem. And for the larger ecosystem, you are a piece of the puzzle. And I think that also comes to sort of diversification, risk, and so make sure that your market share can also be affected by others' market shares to some degree. So I think that's really wise. I had a question which might seem evident, but it's quite serious. And that is when you talk about being useful for as many as possible, there might be several motivations behind that statement. I can assume one is financial, another one might be personal, impact-wise. But where do you measure them up against each other? Like the need for financial to be affected by as many users as possible versus having a tool that impacts positively on people's workday. Like where does your motivations lie in between those two?
In fact, the motivation is more, I would say, ecosystemic than financial at the beginning. The idea is that as, let's go back on criminal, as a music supervisor or whatever you do within the music industry, like I said earlier, you are connected not only with other pros, like publishers, supervisors or whatever, but also with creators, artists, and so on. So we are all in the same boat. So if we would do something that would be just dedicated to the B2B and players that can afford to pay 20 to 1,000 bucks a month for an amazing tool, then we would not have the artists, the bedroom producers, and all this ecosystem of music people, whereas they are the beginning of all these stories. So they are the starting point. And so it's not the question of having them to make money from them. It's having them because they are the starting point of the industry. And so that's why we have a free version on Bridge. It's because other tools that aim to be really big, they always have a free version. SoundCloud has a free version. WeTransfer has a free version. So we have to compete with that. It's not because we are more well-made for big players that we need to close the door to smaller players. And that's really very, very important in our vision. And once again, it's both an ecosystem point, then at the end of the day, if we succeed to do what we do, the fact that it might make us $1 billion company, because it's not the thousands of professionals worldwide that make finance, VC things that you are building something huge. It's because you are able also to get the creator economy. That's the only way, like you said earlier, the music business is small. That's true. So if you are just taking a small part of a small business, then nobody might be interested in the VC world. Now, if you are able to make something that is that might be of interest not only for big players but also for the creator economy, then you can do something really, really huge. And that's what we are building. That's really the idea. I don't say that we are already here because it's a long journey, and like you said, it's especially with that kind of ambitious project, you need to be good at all the stage of the journey. But that's what we do, and but I like the idea of doing it for ecosystemic reason more than for financial reason, because it's not an option not to have them. Because if we don't have the creator, all the professionals will keep on receiving expired WeTransfer links, and we don't like it.
So here at the end of the episode, I have a question about the future, because you guys have had money invested in the company. You can sort of look that up in Crunchbase. But you also just briefly mentioned that, there's a hypothetical potential that if you hit the right market and expand out, there could be a big company. So what is the exit goal? Like, what expectations do you have in your investor backing plus your own? Like, what are you guys aiming for?
Good question again, Jacob. So may I go back just to explain our finance strategy? So
sure.
We already made 2 financial rounds. That's what you were mentioning by talking about Crunchbase. The first one was in 2021. The idea was just to gather some business angels mostly, because it was early stage, and even I made a very nice exit with Criminal. It's not the kind of exit that would be good enough to raise money from VCs. So we made this 1 million round with business angels that helped us to release the V1 like 6-7 months after, so in May 2022. We released the AI on Bridge in July 2023, which allowed us to launch our marketplace, because we have an internal marketplace. That's a very important point of the tool. Not only we help you to receive, store, and share music, but also we will help you to amplify your discoverability with our AI of music description. So the idea is to help the whole music industry to be able to have more sync opportunities, but also other stuff. We might make another episode under that. And so we launched this marketplace in January this year, in 2024. We made a second round of finance with VCs in March this year. It was a finance round of 2.25 plus 1 million in something else. And the idea for the future, to finally answer your question, is that next year we will do a third finance round, and this one will pretty surely be a mix of raising money directly from the industry and VCs. Why? Because as we are building a solution that is a standard for the industry, our idea is also to say, okay, why wouldn't we raise money from the industry players, majors, independents, and so on, but many of them, not just one. If we would have just one industrial corporate company interested in spending money in Bridge, then we would not do it. But the idea is to do more or less, but for other reasons, what Spotify made by opening the equity to majors. But we will not make it for free. That will be the main difference.
Yeah.
And the idea is to say, okay, you spent more or less 10 years from 2008 to 2018 to spend a lot of money within internal tools that were not working. Now, almost all of the major, for instance, are using a mix of Dropbox, Google Drive, WeTransfer, Disco, Think Tank, Promo Jukebox, Fatbox. But that's not their solution. And so the idea would be to say, okay, you made something internal, it wasn't working. Now you are in a process of having many different solutions that are pretty decent, each of them, but you don't have everyone on the same page. Let's finally have a solution that is matching the most of your needs, and you can also take a part of the equity. That's the idea of this next fundraising, and And to me, that's a very important thing because, let's make this tool that is helping everyone owned partially by the industry itself. And that's the vision for the future. And
I think that's such an important thing. And I had to talk with Jen Miller from Audio Socket here recently. What we talked about, sort of the concepts about the industry taking internal ownership of streamlining processes, of using specific technology, because the flip side of being in a small industry and also being relatively disorganized in agreeing of how to do stuff is that it's just not very profitable. The margins get smaller. The work and effort going into doing actual deliveries are more. And I think that's a brilliant point, that one of the ways of making the music industry attractive, both for external players and internal players, is agreeing on stuff, streamlining stuff, making sure that what is out there is something we as an industry has decided on to make better together, because it's not big enough to not having that sorted out, in my opinion. Well, great.
Totally agree.
I look so much forward to sort of following your journey on the sideline with Bridge Audio. Clément, it's brilliant to having you here and talk about your journey. And I really hope the next financing round will go through, because, again, you have this bigger purpose around it. Yeah, of course, it's raising money for a company. But it's also the commentary on, like, we should have something that just removes all those barriers we have set for ourselves. And let's just streamline that. Yeah.
And what we have for us for this next round is that the execution is very good. I mean, the tool is really easy to use. That was something very important for me from the beginning, to have something that is very lean, because if not, we would just lose the creators. And the other thing is that the AI that we've been building is really, really even more powerful than what I was expected when I started to put my finger into this huge new journey. And to be honest, I'm really, really proud of it, because that's what makes the product really interesting, because you can browse everywhere on Bridge. In the received content, you can say, oh, did I receive the track that would be cloud rap sung by a female lead in Spanish talking about family, and you will find it. Whereas today, when you are receiving stuff, it's just track, main audio track. And that's the same for your own catalogs, because that's what I was saying with this example of Universal. So an intern can make an amazing search within millions of tracks, whereas she or he is just here for 2 days. And last but very important, it's also that you can make your music accessible by other people. And so as a music supervisor or at the agency, I can browse on the sync hub of Bridge and find a track and finalize a sync opportunity with the right order. So that's really the idea of making all this much more in Bridge Audio. That's the name.
Love it. I love that you're building the bridge. Thank you so much. Come on.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Jacob.
All good. We'll talk soon.